Hello, and thank you for joining us for our final segment of Running. I'm Zachariah Hughes, joined by our last three candidates for Assembly Seat J, representing South Anchorage. Mark Schimsheimer, welcome.
Thank you.
Treg Taylor.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, and Mr. John Weddleton.
Thanks.
Thank you all three for being here, and we'll jump right in and start off, Mr. Schimsheimer, your opening remarks.
Hi, I'm Mark Schimsheimer. I'm the pro-business fiscal conservative running for the South Anchorage Assembly Seat J, the seat vacated by Jennifer Johnson. I'm a professional civil engineer, real estate investor, and developer in South Anchorage and Girdwood. I have 10 years of private sector experience in the mining, gas, and oil industry, and 15 years experience in the public sector, both at the municipal and state level. There's a lot of issues facing the Assembly today, and I believe that among all the candidates, I have the specific ideas and the experience necessary to help move Anchorage forward.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Taylor, yours.
Hi, I am Treg Taylor. I'm running for the South Anchorage Assembly seat. I'm running for the Assembly because I care deeply about this community. As a father of 5 young children, I want Anchorage to continue to be a place of opportunity for them and for your families. I entered the race because the candidates that had already entered did not represent the conservative values that I hold dear. I believe South Anchorage deserves a conservative choice. I'd appreciate your vote on April 5th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Weddleton, your opening remarks, sir.
Thanks, John Weddleton. I'm running on a platform of balance, experience, and commitment. I've got over 20 years of public policy experience through community councils, planning commission, chamber of commerce, and many other groups on a whole variety of issues that affect South Anchorage. I've also got over 30 years as a business owner. I have multiple locations, over 24 employees. I've created jobs for hundreds over the years. And I've learned how to make balanced public policy decisions that include everyone respectfully in the process. Thank you.
Thank you, all three, and we're going to go right into questions. Mr. Schimsheimer, the first one is for you, and everyone will have a chance to respond, but assuming that state aid continues to drop, where should the Assembly look to close budget gaps the next 3 years? And please be specific. If you're proposing specific cuts, tell me what they are, and if there's new revenues, I'd like to hear those.
Okay, that's a good question. I don't believe that a municipality needs more revenue than it's already getting, and if the state cuts out, I believe, about $20 million of revenue sharing, I believe the municipality can make efficiencies and cuts to its budget. And specifically where I would look is at the SAP project. I would stop that immediately, and I believe there's much cheaper implementations that we can do than that. I would look at cost savings through divesting our muni of ML&P. We have a lot of money. We're going to start to blow through on that project as we start to subsidize rates downtown. We do not need to own ML&P. I believe the Port of Anchorage has some tremendous efficiencies that we can look at. There's medical cost efficiencies we can look at, and there's outsourcing of public services that has been tried, and I think we should try that again. Those 5 specific areas will save us enough money so that we don't need to go after new revenue sources.
Thank you so much for that answer, and very specific, but we are going to try and keep it to 45 seconds for the responses. So Mr. Taylor, your budget proposal, should state aid continue to shrink?
Right, no, I think the state will continue to shrink in the short term at least. I think that there's many things that we can do to reduce the budget in the municipality. I think the budget's is bloated, frankly. We have a duplication of services within various departments. We have accounting departments spread throughout the city, some for the school board, for the school system, others for the municipality. I think you need to consolidate those services. I think that would be a huge savings to the taxpayers of Anchorage. I also think you can outsource to the private sector. I know that we represent a lot of people in the roads districts that have private plowing. They wouldn't give that up for anything. And I think the private sector has proven they work, and we should look to them to provide cheaper services.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Weddleton, the same question to you on closing future budget gaps.
Well, let's support the process that we see now. I think we know through the mayor's campaign that getting more police on the force is very important. And the recent budget cut every department a little bit for fire and a substantial increase for police to get a couple academies in there, increase public safety. And it just cut the other departments' budgets and really lets the people who are directing those departments figure out where to make those cuts. You know, if you set their goals, give them, what tools you can, and let them decide where to find those efficiencies, that's the way to go. Some of Mark's suggestions, like the ML&P and Port, those are enterprise units that don't really affect directly the city budget. But we can also consolidate things with the school district. I think there's openings for that, and that is in process.
Okay, this next question is the same but different, and I'm curious what your funding priorities are. We'll start with you, Mr. Taylor. Given the resources available, I'm just curious what the services of government function in Anchorage you'd fight to protect.
Well, I think that the government should be limited in the services they provide. I think there's that core group of services that they should focus on, and I think part of the problem is they've got outside of those core few. I mean, obviously the roads, they need to take care of the roads. Obviously the infrastructure, that is important to everyone that lives and tries to run a business in this community. And those should be their focuses. We also have to have a school district. That should be where our priorities are. Anything outside that, I believe, it should be looked at very closely. And obviously, the one that I forgot and I shouldn't have is the fire and police. Those are services that we need to build. Those are services that we need to assure are ready, because when Anchorage families need them, they should be there to respond.
Okay, and Mr. Weddleton, your funding priorities.
Well, I almost parallel that. I think police and fire are critical. I've knocked on over 2,000 doors, probably close to 2,500, and schools are extremely important. They choose their homes based on their schools. They choose living in city. We have to make sure our school district is strong and effective. They're very concerned with public safety, so increasing the police is a constant theme that I hear at the doors. So I would focus on those. We do have some examples like the Parks Foundation, where we've shifted a lot of park spending over to public volunteer system that's been extremely effective. And there's probably room for things like that. We're a very volunteering town and kind of leverage that in Anchorage.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Shimsheimer.
It's going to sound somewhat similar to these two answers, but our priorities should be public safety, education, and infrastructure. We do need more officers on the street. We're down to 375. We should be in the 425 to 450 range, and that's going to take money to get those officers there and retain them. Education is not a place that we need to spend more money. What we need to correctly close that investment gap between what we spend and what we get. They keep giving us a huge budget. I appreciate the vote that was taken last night by the 4 conservatives who voted no on the ASD budget. I applaud them for that vote, but we should close that investment gap. And then, as Treg said, infrastructure is something that we do need to continue spending our money on so that we keep our roads and streets in acceptable condition.
Okay, well, following up, all three of you mentioned education, and I think lots of criticisms from different directions coming towards the school district lately. But I'm curious, with less state money coming, how you think that the ASD should advance and how public monies should be put towards the school district. So, Mr. Weddleton, we'll start with you. Sorry about that.
So you're asking how the school district
I'm
with less state money can function?
Yeah, with less state money coming in, how would you like to see public education supported in the next 3-year term that you might be a part of?
Well, that's brutal. What we've seen is increasing class sizes, which is unfortunate. There may be consolidation of schools, which is very traumatic for people. They like their neighborhood schools. There are some schools that are over capacity and some that are under, and some programs within those schools could move to the under capacity schools. It's a challenge across the board, but we got to figure out how to make that work. We need to have quality schools in Anchorage, and the state is required to provide funds for public education.
And Mr. Shimsheimer, how would you like to see public education approached from the assembly level the next 3 years?
The number one predictor of a kid's quality education and results is the quality of the teacher. So we talk a lot about classroom sizes in schools and whatnot, but we need to make sure that relationship between the teacher and the student is our number one priority. We spend a lot of money on education. Our per capita spending is pretty well at the top of the nation. I think there's only 2 states that spend more than we do. So I don't think money is the issue here. I think it's a more of where's our priority? Is our priority at the school board? Is it at the superintendent? Is it at the administration? We should flip that upside down, and our priority should be quality teachers and that relationship between the teacher and the student.
Okay, and Mr. Taylor?
Yeah, I think we need to do a better job with the power of the purse. The assembly controls the money that the school district gets, and unfortunately they haven't done a very good job of that in the last couple of years. We've seen bloated budgets. As was mentioned earlier, we spend more per capita or per student than most other states could even dream of spending, yet our performance is way down. I'm all for spending money on our students if it's effective, but right now it's not effective, and what we've got is a bloated and I think also our teachers are just as good as those in the other states. Our families care just as much about their children as they do in other states. Our schools, we've got great schools, but what we need to do it's not that's not what's causing the gap between performance. The gap is caused because of administration and system. We need to take a hard look at that, and we need to get those down to manageable levels.
Okay. We'll go back to you, Mr. Schimsheimer. How do you evaluate this administration's job so far since taking office?
That's an interesting question. We were asked that question yesterday. I gave the mayor a C+ and the criticism I have of the mayor to date is the allocation. First of all, I don't like his monkeying with the tax cap. I support Prop 8. We don't need to erode public trust by trying to pick up a couple of bucks and erode the tax cap. He has also got an allocation issue between, I would like to see, we're South Anchorage. I would like to see South Anchorage have a little bit more representation and a little bit more interest by the administration. The administration seems to be constantly interested in social issues that I don't believe are the government's responsibility. And I would like to see them start to concentrate on public safety, education, and infrastructure in South Anchorage.
Okay. Thank you. And Mr. Taylor, this administration.
I give the current administration very poor grades. I am an attorney in the oil and gas industry. I've watched that industry make extremely hard decisions that affect real families, real individuals in our community. And we're watching the state grapple with a huge budget gap because of that economic condition. And yet the Assembly and the administration have done nothing to address our budget. There's been no attempts to reduce our budget. Well, actually, that's not true. There were 48 attempts to reduce our budget this last time. 0 passed. Instead, the administration and the Assembly have raided the tax cap and raised property taxes to the Anchorage homeowner. And I think that's unacceptable, and I think there needs to be a check and a balance on that process.
Okay. And Mr. Weddleton, your evaluation of the administration.
I'd give him a higher. Is this a pass fail or we got A, B, C, D? I'd give him certainly a pass. And I wouldn't be, what I see is that he's done what he said he would do as far as putting money towards public safety, a little bit towards fire. He cut every other department. His budget came in $2 million less than the previous budget, which is significant. So he's doing basically what he said he would do. As far as things like South Anchorage, the things that he's working on we are a city. We represent South Anchorage, there are needs in South Anchorage, but we operate as a city. If there's a project, road project not in the air, we all use those roads. We drive those roads to, get to work. So I think he's doing an okay job. It remains to be seen. He's brand new, and look forward to spending Tuesdays with him.
Okay. With that, we're going to move on to the opportunity for you guys to ask questions of each other. So there'll be a 20-second question that you can ask of either one of your opponents, a response, and then a 45-second rebuttal. So Mr. Schimsheimer, we'll start with you.
Well, I'm going to ask John a question. I think you've heard this one before. John, considering that you're a big advocate of projects like the Spenard Road rebuild projects and bike lanes, and we just you just mentioned that. And how can we trust you to fight for the property owners when the people of South Anchorage are the primary residents that foot the bill for these projects?
I'd actually debate that about if we're the primary people who foot the bill. I think you're referring to a Tischler report, which is about 20 years ago and had actually economic flaws in it. So don't rely on that for your decision making on this. But my record for South Anchorage is expensive. I've got over 20 years with Community Council's Planning Commission, with the Hillside District Plan, roads issues all across South Anchorage. It's been a real dedication to the area. But I also recognize that we are a city and there are projects throughout the city that are important to everyone in the city. Spenard Road is a road, I bet everyone at this table has been to Spenard many times and enjoyed the businesses there. It is also an economic development project. There's a dozen properties in that small section that can't develop until that road is done. So we'll see economic development because of that. It's a very important project.
Okay, that's all the time, and your rebuttal.
Well, I haven't been to Spenard a whole lot recently, and I'm really wondering, we have enormous projects that we need to be doing in South Anchorage. We've got roads in South Anchorage that are just dismal and unpassable at certain times of the year. We have safety issues all throughout the South Anchorage road system. And yet, what I see is bonds being issued or being voted on today for the Spenard project that John's in favor of. I would like to see a South Anchorage representative be in favor of a bond for a road project that benefits the people of South Anchorage and takes care of some of the health and safety problems that we have.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And so, Mr. Taylor, your opportunity to ask a question.
Proposition 8 is a huge issue right now for Anchorage. I feel so strongly about it that my family went out and got signatures for Proposition 8. It's all about saving the tax cap and preserving the money that their families have to support themselves. John, on April 5th, are you voting yes or no on Proposition 8?
You know, I think Proposition 8, no. Proposition 8 is a little bit misguided. I think it was unfortunate the way it unfolded because it did create mistrust with the public about how the interpretation was made. But the tax cap is not perfect. It's good. I support the tax cap. But if your goal, and I hear this going door to door, is to decrease the growth of property taxes, we should look at the factors that increase property tax, the CPI, the population growth, and the increase in construction. Are those too high? So Prop 8 sets a new starting point, but it does not impact that growth. And that's what we should be looking at. We should be looking at, maybe we should cap the percentage of our budget that goes towards public debt. That deals with the issue that people have with property taxes. Prop 8 is a simple political ploy. It doesn't deal with the issues people are concerned with.
Okay, thank you. And your rebuttal, Mr. Taylor?
I couldn't disagree with you more strongly. Proposition 8 is not a political ploy. Proposition 8 returns the tax cap to what has worked so well for Anchorage over the last however many years. The issue is that the Prop 8, the changes that they made to the tax cap affect the families of Anchorage. Mm-hmm. If those changes had been made 6 years ago, the average taxpayer for every $100,000 of assessed value of their property would be paying $400 additional this year. That means for the average home in Anchorage of $300,000, that family now has to find $1,200 to feed that burden. And that's just unreasonable in the current economic conditions, and so I can't disagree with you more on that issue, John.
All right, thank you. And so, Mr. Weddleton, now it's your opportunity to ask a question.
Chuck, you have been on the board and commission of MLMP for a number of years, and that's very good. 5 years, you have not missed a meeting. You phoned in for one. You've always voted with the majority. How do you feel about your role in that? Is that important? Do you guys have a lot of say in how MLMP is operating?
Yeah, so that role has transitioned a little bit. When I first got on that, it was the board. And so we had a little bit different responsibilities. Currently, it's a commission. It's transitioned to a commission. So I feel that the responsibilities currently are to act as a go-between between MLMP and the city, working with the assembly members to solve problems, to make them aware of problems and issues, and to answer their questions. And so that's what I consider my role today to be for MLMP as a commissioner.
Okay, and Mr. Weddleton?
Well, the board and commission is there to direct MLMP in the work they do. And in 2003, they proposed an over 30% increase in our electric rates. And sometime in the last few years created a liquidity crisis for MLMP. So MLMP was unable to pay its owners, which is the citizens of Anchorage, a dividend, and that blew a big hole in the budget. And that was done under Treg's watch. And he always voted with the majority. So he's our fiscally conservative, fiscally responsible fellow, and I'm worried about that because the only example I could find went the other way. I'd also question on the Prop 8 numbers that those are somewhat illusory and fantasy. The tax cap was not changed. It is as it was. Prop 8 will change the tax cap, and it's a change that's livable. It's fine if it happens. It's not the best change that we could do to the tax cap. Tax cap has not changed.
Close off here. Thank you. It's the 45
Sorry,
seconds.
I didn't see the light.
No, that's okay. It's tricky. There's a lot of lights. But switching back to questions, I'm going to try and get things district specific. So we'll start with you, Mr. Schimsheimer. Who should pay for police protection in Girdwood?
That's a local issue right now for the people of Girdwood, and whichever way they go, I support them. I find it very unfortunate, however, that they are considering or have to be forced to consider to go all the way to Whittier. But as of somebody who actually owns property in Girdwood, the people in Girdwood have this feeling that it's Whittier versus Anchorage, and they kind of see it as they're close to both. I in the municipality would like to see Girdwood come to us, but it's a local issue. If they decide to go to Whittier, I would support that.
Okay, and Mr. Taylor, the same question to
It's
you.
absolutely right. It is a local issue. They've got a hard choice to make come April 5th in their decision of what they do. The reality is the troopers in the state are facing cuts, and the troopers are pulling out, and so we have to deal with that in the best way we can. And the people of Girdwood know best what is best for them, and so I'd support whatever decision they made. As compared to the Whittier Police Department and the Anchorage Police Department, obviously I would love to see them use the Anchorage Police Department, but the fact is Whittier can offer the services for about half the price, and so that's a decision they're going to have to weigh, and I'll support them in however they decide.
Okay, and Mr. Weddleton?
Let us agree, it's a local decision, and I have gone to many of the Public Safety Committee meetings, and they've done a tremendous job of developing their public choices there. They looked at all options. They looked at the city, Whittier, doing their own, doing nothing. It's been a tremendous process. I will support whatever they choose to do and try to make it work as well as possible. But the other concern is that still leaves the rest of Turnagain Arm without coverage, and we need to start getting them engaged, just like the Girdwood Board of Supervisors got engaged, and try to find a good solution for them.
Okay. Mr. Taylor, we'll start with you. What do you think is the most important issue for residents in South Anchorage, and why do you think it's that issue?
I think it's the economy, and as it directly relates to property taxes. I've received emails from individuals that are living on a fixed income. There's no way they could pay more in property taxes, but they're looking at that slip going, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? And they're faced with a very difficult decision. I think we're going to lose a lot of retirees from the city of Anchorage unless we get the spending under control. And I think they add a huge benefit to our community. They have experiences, they have expertise, they can work and volunteer in our schools. The other problem we have is that we're shedding young families in Anchorage. They're moving to where they can afford to live, and that's the Valley. And unfortunately, there's blocks to affordable housing in Anchorage, one of them being Title 21, which John Weddleton supported and pushed through. It acts as a block to affordable housing. Thank you.
Wrap up. Yeah, no problem. And so, Mr. Weddleton, what do you see as the most important issue for District J?
Well, going door to door, they're worried about state budget and the impact there, which is job losses. I expect it to be very traumatic, just like it was in the 80s. I was here then. They're worried about the quality of their schools. Property tax is high, and it's not just the height, but just give me 1 year where it won't grow again, and that's something we need to work on. It's interesting with Title 21, it was actually rewritten in a way to reflect the new type of development that we do. We can't just grow out, we grow in, we're tearing down the old, building the new, and provisions in there are designed to make it easier to do multifamily housing, to provide more affordable housing. So it's incorrect to say it's not. And we can't really say if someone supports or doesn't support Title 20. We're required to have land use code in Anchorage, and that is Title 21.
Okay. And Mr. Schimsheimer, for you?
I think it would be interesting if we had a discussion on Title 21, but that wasn't the question. The question is what's important to the voters of South Anchorage, and it's the economy. And it is taxes. Of course, they don't want to see their taxes going up when they're hearing talk in Juneau about an income tax, the PFD. Here in Anchorage, they're not only hearing about the Prop 8 tax potential, but they're also hearing about the sales tax issue, and they're going tax on top of tax on top of tax. At the same time, they're worried about their jobs, which is not something that the municipality can do anything about directly other than create a good business environment, but they're also worried about their home prices, because the number one investment by most people in South Anchorage is their home. And the price of those homes is going down. So the standard of living that we enjoy in South Anchorage is under attack today.
Okay, let's go to Title 21. And as always, the challenge is how to put it in accessible terms so that we're all talking about the same thing. But I'm curious, we'll start with you, Mr. Weddleton. Do you think that building in the municipality is too tightly or loosely regulated right now? And what are your solutions from an assembly level for how the city develops?
There are issues with it now. The new code came into effect this year. Builders have run into some stumbling blocks, and we need to constantly work on that. Title 21 is never really done. I've worked on it for 15 years. When Jennifer Johnson is off the assembly, and that's the seat we're running for, no one on the assembly has more than 3 years of experience with it. I know how it works. I can get my head around it. I've paid attention since I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission to it, going to the Assembly Title 21 committee meetings. There are some aspects of it that should have worked and aren't working that need to be fixed. The alternative equivalent design system should work and make it easy to build. It's not. We need to work on that. We need to get the user's manual written, which was promised for years. That needs to be done. We need to get the design criteria manual board approved. Thing. So there's quite a bit. There's a lot of things that need to be worked on. I'm ready to do it.
Okay, and so Mr. Schimsheimer, too tightly or too loosely regulated the building right now?
Well, it's a good question. I'm a real estate developer in South Anchorage. I actually use Title 21 all the time. I use the old Title 21, the new Title 21. And to continually talk about Title 21 is just a little bit misleading from a developer's perspective, because the number of permits that are required to do any construction in South Anchorage is, I think it's up to 7 right now. And these are wetlands permits from the Army Corps of Engineers, on-site water and sewer permits, watershed management permits, right-of-way permits, excavation permits, building safety permits, and there's a couple more I've probably missed, a planning and zoning permit. Where you can get some efficiencies in this is to line up those permits in such a way that a builder can go in at the top and come out at the bottom in a reasonable fashion with a reasonable expectation of having a project. Today that doesn't exist, and it's complete chaos in the municipality, and Title 21 hasn't
I'm
helped
going to have
things,
to ask you to wrap up.
but there are efficiencies that we can definitely gain in the municipality.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Taylor?
Yeah, I think the permitting process and the regulations are causing the cost of building and development, which we should be encouraging, to skyrocket. And one of our biggest problems we face in Anchorage right now is affordable housing. I addressed it before, and I'll continue to address it. We're losing new families, we're losing our retirees, and it has to do with affordable housing. Title 21 acts as a block. I mean, the things that Title 21 require you to do are absurd. You know, if you're a retired family and you want to now build a third bay on your garage, so you can hide that boat or that or those snow machines, now under Title 21, you likely have to expand your living space as well. That's just absurd. That's the cost. It's costly and it's unreasonable.
All right, well, I could ask you all about Title 21 and land use and permitting all day long, but we've come to the end of our time, and I want to make sure that there's some space for closing remarks. So, Mr. Schimsheimer, we'll start with you and your closing remarks.
Well, thank you, first of all, for this. This has actually been a pretty good debate here. Again, Mark Schimsheimer running for Seat J, South Anchorage, District 6, and I'd appreciate your vote on April 5th.
All right, and Mr. Taylor, your closing remarks.
I'm asking the people of South Anchorage to trust me on the Assembly. I have been endorsed by Mayor Sullivan, Mayor Fink, Mayor Mystrom, Chris Birch, Jennifer Johnson, whose seat's leaving open, and I'd appreciate your vote and consideration. You can learn more about me at TregTaylor.com or at TregTaylor for Assembly on Facebook.
All right, thank you,
Thank you.
sir. And Mr. Weddleton.
Well, thanks. John Weddleton, South Anchorage Assembly. I'm running on balance, experience, and commitment. I've got over 20 years of solving public policy issues throughout Anchorage, particularly in South Anchorage, and experience matters. I've got over 30 years as a business owner with multiple locations, dozens of employees, created hundreds of jobs, and it is critical that we have someone with that experience on the Assembly. No one else does. And I know how to bring people together, not just that narrow band of people who agree with me, but everybody, respect all citizens. Thank you.
Okay, I want to thank all three of you for keeping it so civil and specific to the issues. It's been a wonderful discussion. That is all the time we have for our program. I want to thank all 13 of the candidates who made time to sit down and explain their candidacies. And thank you for watching at home and listening along with us. The election is April 5th, although early voting is open right now. I'm Zachariah Hughes. Good night.